Please welcome with a big round of applause Mr. Sai Sundarakrishna, who's the Chief Innovation Officer, Healthcare and AI at Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, as he comes on stage to discuss Frugal AI to Rich Future, India's next digital leap, in conversation with my co-anchor Sumit Lakhutia.
Thank you for that, Ashish. Sai, we're talking about something really exciting, AI. Everybody's talking about it. But everybody's speaking in general. It's very cool to say I'm using ChatGPT now, Gemini, Perplexity, etc. How should we be approaching AI for Bharat, for India? We're a huge country, almost 1.3, 1.4 billion people. We can't just copy-paste what the West is doing. India is very famous for its jugaad, frugal, which is why we're talking also about Frugal AI. Your thoughts, what are your insights? How can we crack the code?
Perfect. Really thank Times Now for giving this great opportunity. And it's a great feeling to be here talking about artificial intelligence. But let me get the stage a little bit, give a lot of context, because a lot of people will be in different modes of life and different awareness about AI. So I'll start with a tagline here. So technology scales capacity, but the artificial intelligence is going to do that actionable decision intelligence, which is going to create value, do the price discovery, and do the market growth. Let's get this fundamental thing. Now it remains, what is artificial intelligence? First of all, we'll cover that question. So 4 pillars, MCRA, I would call it. Deep mathematics for problem solving. We can't shun away from it. Computing. How do you leverage the compute? Reasoning. Before, during planning, during processing, and during feedback. And autonomy. So if all these things work in tandem, math, reasoning, compute, and autonomy, then you call it AI. So this particular toolkit is what is creating value. So whether whatever kind of innovation you do, whatever sector you are in, these 4 pillars are creating value. Now, think about a very simple example. A farmer creates a produce for, let's say, 100 rupees. He sells it for 100 rupees and he spends 70 rupees on it. 30 rupees he creates value for himself. He gives it to a manufacturer, makes probably a wheat flour or something, and then he creates 50 rupees value for himself, and the next baker or food processor creates 70 rupees. So totally they have 150 rupees of value. Government puts its own tax, so government is also a value creator, it creates value for itself, and then minus subsidies. So this whole thing is the GDP. So think about the value creation for the farmer. Enter AI now. This is where the scene changes. Instead of just doing whatever he does in the total factor productivity, just with his available capital, labor and material, now he uses satellite technology to look at the soil health. He drives drones and it just puts computer vision and minimizes his risk of, getting caught up in a blight or some kind of a disease. He insures himself. He looks at the soil microbiome. He looks at the interaction between soil microbiome and the plant genomics. So all these things existed, but then you created value by combining all these things together for one decisioning actionable intelligence, right? So this is what AI creates. And what it has created is 3 things, if you really carefully think about it. It has created, first of all, it has minimized the risk. We call it variance reduction. It has created what you call information asymmetry processing. Now we have collate information from different data sources, and it has also done optimal allocation. If he puts all those sensors, look at leaf stress, look at the root stress, hypoxia, put a smart precision agriculture. Now he's created a lot of value by combining all. The yield just shoots up.
Right.
AI did this, right? And give a couple more examples. One on manufacturing, predictive maintenance. Your tool where you're bearing failures, predictive maintenance. Your job, the defects in your job. So that's different kinds of job. Look at the whole manufacturing sector. So you, again, run a computer vision and you convert that into signal processing, take into Fourier domain, do all the spectral analysis, and AI gives a toolkit. Or here is where the problems are blooming, early warning signals. look at the process of manufacturing. You're creating value when you say that, here I've applied reinforcement learning. I've studied the process. I can imitate this process for you. I can optimize this process for you. A created value in all the places in one shop floor. Just multiply it for multiple industries and multiple shop floor. So for Bharat, the main thing is you need to make innovations on the core sectors, agriculture, farming, healthcare, fisheries. That's going to be the huge game changer. I haven't even spoken about healthcare, which is...
So
which
we'll get to healthcare next, but I get your point because it's got to be these use cases and specific, tailor-made to the Indian situation. And speaking for healthcare, more specifically on medicine, I know Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham has schools. I mean, you have a school for AI also, and you have school for the in the medical space also, in the medicine.
Hospitals, 2 super specialty hospitals.
Right. How are you seeing, like, teaching these students so that from the bench to the bedside of the hospital, how can AI be integrated there?
Yeah, so this is going to be a very involved question because I think that we have arrived at a watershed moment for healthcare AI. And the reason why I'm talking about this as a watershed moment is, again, the same tagline, technology scales capacity. What we are witnessing right now is a technological surge in something called sequencing technologies in spatial multiomics. So now you can look at subcellular level biomarkers. You can look at what kind of O-link protein, N-link protein are in my endoplasmic reticulum. I can get into the nucleus. Inside nucleolus, I can see all those markers which are spread around. If they are spread around, they mean one thing for cancer. If they are aggregated, they mean another thing for therapeutics and diagnostics. So you can go to that level. Now, what this really brings out is the total addressable market, if you think about it, is 52 sextillion. Because 140 crore Indian people and 37 trillion cells in a guy, and you're thinking about 52 sextillion, that's kind of total addressable market. And now if we actually position this AI properly, we are talking about creating actionable intelligence, which is going to just skyrocket for the kind of talent we have got. So this is going to be extremely interesting moment because now, think about these two things. Your biomarkers are not going to be just a gene or a molecule. They no longer need to be. They can be a state transition of a bunch of these multiomic things that you observed, you sequenced, right? And you can also think about this like the disease is not just one state, but it's a dynamical attractor. I mean, all of us would have gone through our blood reports. You would have seen HbA1c or HSCRP, C-reactive protein. You are in an infection state. Now, you don't know whether you're going towards cure, which is homeostasis, or whether you're going towards an inflammation-based collapse. You really don't know. So how do you know? You think continuity, right? So that's the disease scale again. You thought continuity now. Think about the scale. You got glycosylation. Again, HbA1c gives a systemic glycation, but there's something called AGE, which is going to be very, very involved. And there are a bunch of other jargons I can put, like oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction. I mean, for all these things, AI creates value very, very deep. It's like when the microscope was found, we actually created so many use cases and the whole thing revolutionized. These omics technologies are creating exactly the same moment. So this is going to be useful in precision medicine. I can ask, what is my inflammation load currently, right now? I can ask, what is my biological aging velocity? And I can all, from a population health dynamics, in India, what is the disease state? I can do a digital omic phenotype for every Indian citizen and give it to the Indian government, and then we are going to rule the roost in the world, right? And finally, we can also do clinical trials. You don't need to wait for long instances for clinical trials. You can do accelerated clinical trials, truncated clinical trials, where these biomarkers give you indications that, yes, you have achieved your velocity. And this is kind of a watershed moment.
Exactly. So it sounds like there is so much scope and so many things that can be done. It's like you can't even fathom the number of solutions that this can be done. I want to move on now to the next part is when you talk about AI. A few years ago, it was like, everybody said, okay, the next big career move, you have to be a coder, learn to code, etc., etc. But now AI has changed that game totally. How should people be, the students for tomorrow, how can they learn how to use AI to, more importantly, be AI complementary when they come out into the workforce. So they shouldn't be threatened by AI, but they should know how to work with it to enhance their skills, enhance their productivity.
Yeah, I'm thinking at it from an even bigger perspective. AI complementary is important, but AI creators are also very important. So we need to actually target a global Indian workforce which is kind of AI creators. So let's think about how we do this, right? So I'll kind of give an example from Mundaka Upanishad. So Shaunaka comes to Angirasa, so Rishi, and he asks, like, what is that if I learn? I can learn everything. So teach me that through which if I learn, I can learn everything. I don't want to learn this and this. I don't want this bit piecewise learning. Give me that comprehensive learning module. And that's where the multidisciplinary pedagogy comes. And this is going to be a huge revolution in India, and we're glad to be a part of creating some of this. And so the idea, think about this like you are laying national highway. From national highway, you can see multiple exits. Right? I mean, if you are in one exit, you don't know what happens on the other side of the other exit. But if you're on the national highway, you get a bird's eye view of all the exits. So this national highway is this multidisciplinary AI pedagogy. So we have carefully constructed it. So throw some jargons, but I'll explain it what it is. Something like applied linear algebra, CR, decomposition. From there, you go to something called pseudo-inverse. From pseudo-inverse, if you know that, I mean, no real university teaches all these things in depth, but this pedagogy, if you come to pseudo-inverse, if it's just a 2-hour lecture, you understand how do you kind of take it to a cell type deconvolution in biotechnology. How do you do filter design? How do you do electrical parameters under noise and uncertainty? How do you do the estimation? All this is the same problem if you know pseudo-inverse. So one patch of the road you laid on pseudo-inverse, you created a cognitive gross value add for the student or the mid-career professional. And the next patch of thing, you do a Lagrangian multiplier, augmented Lagrangian, some jargons. Again, you could solve all the optimization problems. So you make that multidisciplinary pedagogy, and what's the reason for constructing National Highway? To move very fast, right? So we don't need to wait for years for degrees and years for skilling. We can do it in 3 weeks. That's what we are kind of aiming at. And that kind of pedagogy is kind of what is going to be the aha moment in Indian pedagogy system.
So you have some books here, you wanted to talk to me about those. So I just want to understand curious about these, because I understand what you're trying to say. It's almost like, in school we learned English. My mother tongue is Hindi, but I went to school, I learned English. And now through English, I learned geography, science, maths, etc. So maybe this is somewhere where you're learning some part of AI which will help you in whichever specific field. Yeah.
So these books, very simply saying, these addresses the 4 pillars basically. The MRCA, math, computing, reasoning and autonomy. Study everything ground up, from basic math to ground up. And then this is not just a book actually, this has a digital twin. So in the digital twin, if I'm talking about pseudo-inverse, so pseudo-inverse is now applied to diffusion and generative AI. So just using generative AI, I can do, just using pseudo-inverse, I can do a lot of generative AI applications now, which means that I don't need to go through the back propagation and neural networks. For artificial intelligence folks, you know how big that is. So that kind of thing, this has got a digital twin, and this book keeps on getting updated. The book evolves as you evolve. So that's the kind of thing that we are kind of doing.
That's most important, because we need to, because AI is evolving so fast. We're talking here, tomorrow there'll be something new in AI. So that's the most important part. I want to also talk to you about, India has been has played a huge role in IT and IT-enabled services. What can be done, and from your role at Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, to make India a digital capital with around AI also? Does it mean more rural labs, or does it mean one big tech lab that has to be implemented? How are you envisioning this?
Yeah, so India is in a wonderful state where, if you look at the AI readiness survey in 2024, by 2024, what they said is, so US is way up, mostly because of its research and infrastructure. Next is China, 35 points or something. India is 21 or something. Now, if you look at the components which actually jack up this rating. For US, it's infrastructure primarily and research secondary. For China, it's primarily research. A little bit of infrastructure it lacks. But for India, the biggest puller is actually the talent. So think about the compounding effect. The way I said the value creation happens, right? From the technology scaling capacity and value creation happens. If there is a 100x value creation per capita, just by sheer demography, we are an order of magnitude 10x higher than all these countries, right? So if you catch in early this bus, and you know the power of compounding is even more powerful when you start early, right? So if you start very early, then the way at which we exponentiate, the way at which we gross value add for all these core sectors will be huge. That's what I think, that talent thing is what is going to be the killer deal for India. Because don't underestimate the talent potential of India. If you follow this kind of a multidisciplinary track, that's where we are heading. We're heading for a big, big moment.
I'm very sure of that, and definitely the talent pool is going to create the magic sauce or the magic moment, maybe. Sai, you know, India has over maybe about more than 100 plus unicorns now, and some are in fintech and different sectors. And I also know that you're on the board of working on the smart city Amravati. What do you think can be done more to bridge this India to Bharat bridge? Because Shishor, we're talking about the urban, but there is so much potential in the rural areas also. How can AI serve to bridge this missing gap, or any other thoughts that you have? Because how can we make the most of that potential that is there?
I honestly think we should start from the schools. We have to introduce AI very strongly in the schools, and not just AI as a, awareness maybe from 3rd grade, 4th grade, kind of use case level understanding, 6th or 7th grade. But from 9th grade, across India, we should make people visualize what is a vector space. How do you do applied linear algebra? I mean, you do the proper mathematical foundation, make them into computational thinkers. The reason for studying is not just writing an exam, but the reason for studying is to model a problem. The reason for studying is to model a problem. Just use simple spreadsheets. Make that same people model that problem in spreadsheets. That's a fundamental thing we really need. If you do that one thing, that is going to really create a lot of dividends for India.
Can I be a little bit of a devil's advocate with you? Because I thought I might be wrong here, but as and when, so AI, just for example, ChatGPT or Perplexity, Gemini, whichever one you want to use, I can put in information, I can just put in a prompt and get I am not learning, because I'm just reading off, I'll read off a paper, and I'll forget about it. So I'm not retaining it. Your thoughts, how can we make that? So yes, we use AI to help us, learn about a concept, write questions. No, we didn't get these from ChatGPT, please. We didn't get this one, but we could have used that. But how do we remember?
Correct. 2 things. Connected learning, storyboarding. Best ways to remember. Connected learning. So look at AI in medicine, right? So AI can look at lesions, lacunae, tumors. When there's a lesion, and somewhere else it finds a vessel, you know that it has to make a connection. There's this lesion, there's a vessel damage somewhere. So it has to attend to these places. That attention mechanism is built by transformers. And transformers are the ones which pioneer and pilot the generative AI, right? If you look at the EHR, medical records, if I ask you a question, what did you eat last year around the lunch? Same day. Can you answer that?
I wouldn't remember what I had 2 days ago at lunch.
But if you ask the same question, who did you meet last year in the same conclave around lunch? You probably may answer.
Yes.
Answer.
True.
So now that's where you do the attentional bias modeling. All the recent research in Google, like this Myras and Titans, they exactly do that. They do that memory contraction, compaction. How do you do catastrophic forgetting? How do you avoid that? How do you do remembering? Simple attention mechanisms, they create this memory architecture. So I understand why something is made, what kind of use case it addresses, connected learning, then storyboarding. So now you'll never see why transformers are used and why. And I want to see that micro level, what are the lessons comprised of. I'll use a convolutional neural network because it gives me very local level features and information. If you understand why something is used, you can very well learn with connected learning. You can do a lot of stuff. Yeah.
So does this mean it's the world for the generalists rather than the specialists?
So you have to be generalist at a pan. You have to zoom out. This is a world for people who can zoom in and zoom out very fast.
Wow. All
This is
right.
a world for them.
It's got to be adaptable and ready for change. Sai, I'm also going to change the format a little. I've been asking questions, you've been giving answers. I'm going to scale it down. I'm going to squeeze it. Let's do a quick rapid fire. I've got a couple of questions on AI for you.
Okay.
And you can't use ChatGPT or
Okay.
anything else, all right? When is the sweet spot to start AI?
Grade 9, you need to understand linear vector spaces first.
Okay. I don't know if my parents will be agreeing, but we will discuss that later. Okay, this is important. Earlier, you always used to say, a few generations ago, people used to start one job and do that job for their whole career. It was that same field, maximum they would shift from one company A to company B in the same field. Now people change careers in their working lifetime, and now more importantly, people change that in almost 2 years, 3 years also. So someone who's in their mid-career space, what's one tip that you would give them for a mid-career AI jump shift?
Okay, mid-career, if you're an individual contributor, it's different. If you're a kind of a strategy management level guy, it's different. If you're a strategy management level guy, try to make sure you identify this value creation. Are you creating value by this asymmetric, information balancing or risk minimization or optimal allocation? What is the mode in which you're creating value? What kind of architectures you need to move fast? Become that kind of decision maker very, very fast. If you're an individual contributor, you go into why you are doing this, what kind of models will give you what kind of ROI, and go a little bit technical inside, and then rediscover yourself for 1 or 2 years, and then come back.
Got it. And your insights on what is the one most impactful thing that the government can do to leverage AI at the best level?
Yeah, this is a great question. So we were talking all the time about the gross value add, right? So whenever there is a government project or anything that happens, it'll be great to have some kind of a real-time dashboard. Now, dashboard, a lot of people think it's only for analytics and reporting. No. Because if one state, I was just in Andhra Pradesh for a different healthcare AI summit. So the cross-disciplinary learning between the states, and which some kind of an overarching organization like the PMO, if it can have some kind of a ministry of AI, well, sure, why not? You can have ministry of loneliness, you can have ministry of AI. Then there's a lot of this cross-state learning which immediately happens. So this worked for us because we solved this problem that way, and share that immediately to, let's say, Uttarakhand, and Andhra Pradesh to Uttarakhand. That transfer will be very, very smooth. And you can go back to Tamil Nadu and see how it can be done at scale, and that will be great.
Fantastic, Sai. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and I'm hoping we can continue this conversation next year. I will remember next year that I met you and interviewed you this year, and I'm hoping by then maybe there'll be a ministry of AI. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Round of applause for Sai.
Thank you, gentlemen, for that insightful conversation.